Good evening and welcome back to another Pirelli Talks. And today we have another special guest. You saw from our Instagram stories is Susie Wolff that is going to join us. And we have to speak to Susie about a very important initiative that was just advertised in the last couple of hours about an FIA Women in Motorsport idea, a project that will start soon, actually already started. So let's connect with Susie in a few minutes. Ciao Susie!
Ciao!
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mario?
I'm very good, thank you. Are you at
Good,
home?
good, good. I'm at home in the mountains. Not at home, but I'm in the
Okay.
Austrian mountains.
Okay, good, fantastic. I hope you enjoy this time at home.
I
Working
do,
from
and
home, I
if
suppose.
you hear any background noise, it's just my little son in the background. But he's been told to be quiet.
Okay. Okay. I will not take too much time from
No
your
problem.
son. So, usually we organize this type of talks with famous people like you,
Am
talking
I
about you.
famous?
Yes, of course.
Not so
You,
sure.
you are. And talking about your experience, how did you start it in motorsport? Why do you have this passion and so on? So let's start from that, but then we have to spend a bit of time on a very important initiative. I was just mentioning to the people before connecting you that is something that is connected with the FIA and with girls on track. So I would like you to explain better. But let's start from your the beginning when you started to be passionate about motorsport. If your husband likes the idea and so on.
Well, for me, I was always one of those little girls that was very competitive and I loved speed. I was very lucky that my father had a motorbike shop, so I always had access to little quads and motorbikes, and it was clear that it was a passion. And I got a kart for my 8th birthday, and it really just started as a hobby. It was something we did as a family on the weekends, but being as competitive as I am, I always wanted to do better and to try and win. So we were nearly racing every weekend. And then around the age of 13, I got taken to watch a Formula 3 race at Donington Park. And I can remember it so clearly in my head. And that's when I suddenly realized, you can be a racing driver and that can be a career. And then you can get to Formula One. And that's really when the whole dream was born in my head.
Good. And then you started racing, and obviously being a girl, it was different, I suppose,
It's
from men.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to look back. At 8 years old when I started racing, you don't think about your gender at that age. You simply live in the moment and you do what you enjoy. And for me, that was racing. And it was clear there weren't many other girls racing. But surprisingly enough, it never really was an issue for me. I never really realized that I was one of the very few women. And I think one of the great things about motorsport, if you're a driver and working on track, you're wearing a helmet. So actually, nobody can see you. Your gender is irrelevant. And it's actually the lap time and the position that's more important than what the driver looks like in a race. I think the first moment I really realized that it was going to be different than I had anticipated, I remember being at the World Championships in Portugal. I was 18 and I'd made it to the final and finished P15 overall, which was a solid result. I mean, I wasn't on the podium, but I remember getting called up to the podium to collect an award for the top female driver in the world. And I was so embarrassed because I think there was only 3 girls in the whole competition. And I thought, I'm not here to be the best female. I'm here to be the best. But that's when I kind of realized that this might be different than I anticipated. Then, of course, when I moved into single seaters, there was a lot more attention around my gender.
Yeah, but I like your approach, and this is part of what we are going to discuss now. And it's the FIA project. I believe you know that Pirelli decided to support the project. There are many, maybe not many projects around that, but probably this is the most important in the last few years. not because it's supported by the FIA, but because of the concept that is behind the project. Can you explain to the people that are following this live chat, which is the idea behind this project and why it is different from other projects in the past? You already introduced it in a certain way, but better to hear from your voice directly.
I mean, first of all, a big thank you for Pirelli for supporting the project, because in the end, it's the support of people within motorsport which makes it possible for projects and initiatives like this to get up and running. The initiative is something which I believe is fantastic. So Girls on Track, which is now Dare to be Different, and Girls on Track came together to form one global initiative which is aimed at getting more women into the sport. That's not just on the track, but in every avenue of the sport. But once we get the girls racing, we need to create the opportunity for them to actually move up the ranks and become successful racing drivers. And Michelle and I, Michelle Mouton at the FIA, the head of the Women in Motorsport Commission president, are really passionate about the fact that we need to nurture the young talent. We need to get the girls at a young age and make sure that they have the chance to progress through the sport and make it to the very top. And this initiative, it takes 20 girls aged from 12 to 16 throughout international karting. It puts them through the Winfield School, where they do a test where it's not just on track, it's off track, it's mental, physical. They go to the Ferrari Driver Academy to get put through their paces. And in the end, one girl gets chosen to join the Ferrari Young Driver Academy, which is a fantastic opportunity for the girl that wins. And then on top of that, they get a season in Formula 4, which of course runs your tires, the Pirelli tires. And Formula 4 is the bridgeway from karting into single-seaters. And that's what's so great about this initiative. We're giving the best young karter that we find internationally the opportunity to step up into single-seater racing, to be supported by the Ferrari Young Driver Challenge. And that for me is something which we've not seen before.
How important is to have this level of partners in the project? Because we are talking about the FIA, obviously. We are talking about Ferrari Driver Academy, one of the most important academies. You were mentioning also the training they are going to do at Paul Ricard. I mean, you have all the big brands. You have all the best possible partners in this project. And I think that it's quite important that the project is also on a long term, because when you start supporting young drivers, if you support a young driver for 1 year or two, it maybe is not enough to give her the possibility to emerge in motorsport. So how important is to continue this project in a long-term perspective, in your opinion?
Absolutely. I mean, the long-term aspect, even for Girls on Track and now Girls on Track Rising Stars, we need to be committed to this. We need to know that it's not going to happen overnight. You know, part of the reason when I stopped racing, part of my passion was to make sure that everything I'd learned in my career, I could hand over to the next generation. And throughout my career, I only ever did one interview where I wasn't asked about my gender. It was such a huge topic. And for me, it's very important that we pass the baton on to the next generation and give them the opportunity. And many people ask me, you know, how can we make the sport more diverse? Why don't we have more female racing drivers? Why don't we have more female participation throughout the whole sport, off track and on track? And I keep saying, if nobody does anything, nothing will change. We need to make it more accessible. We need to open up the sport to the next generation and get them involved. And that's why to have companies like the FIA, which is a governing body, but companies like Ferrari and Pirelli supporting this initiative, it shows that there's a real willingness from deep within the sport to help diversity, to get more women involved. And that for me is such a good sign for the future, because the more support we get and the more people who are committed to getting more female talent into the sport, the better it's going to be. And it's not something which will happen overnight. It's something that does take time. But the fact that we have so much support and we have a great program now, it really gives me lots of hope for the future.
Yeah, I'm sure Michelle Mouton is, she is very good in this initiatives, because we were working together in 2010, I believe, 10 years ago, when we were in rallying, and we created together the Pirelli Star Drivers. It was an opportunity for young drivers to progress in rally up to the WRC level. So it's really important, and Pirelli was always involved in many different projects. But we're happy to be here with this project that is different because, as you said, it's a matter of creating opportunities for the girls, not to separate girls because of the gender, is to create opportunities. Motorsport is not easy because you need money sometime to start at a good level, and not everybody. That is common. It doesn't matter if you are a girl or a man. money are something that you need, or the support from a sponsor. So that's really important to have a professional like you involved in that project, to have Michelle, as I said, and hopefully it will go in the right way, and we will be able to see girls at a very top level because they deserve it. Because, as you said, they have a helmet, so you cannot see if somebody is a girl or a man. And hopefully we will have girls in Formula One, in WRC, and as Michelle was some years ago.
Absolutely. You know, Michelle and I were from the very first moment absolutely on the same wavelength, and I have a lot of respect for Michelle and her career and what she's achieved. And our philosophy is very much, you know, the sport isn't segregated. There's no racing just for women. There's one category, and there's divided opinion. Should it be segregated? Should it not? But the fact of the matter is, right now, it's not segregated. So if you want to be a female that goes on to have a career in motorsport, that means you can actually earn money and make a career out of the sport. You need to be able to compete against the best, regardless of gender. And this is why this initiative is so important, because it's finding the talent at the grassroots level, which is karting. It's going out to every nation which participates, and it's taking the best of the pick. And even for the one winner, she's going to go on to have great opportunity. But even the process and what the girls managed to go through, you know, going to the Ferrari Young Driver Academy, going through the Winfield experience at Paul Ricard, I would have loved such an opportunity when I was a young girl karting. And I think the fact that that opportunity is there will inspire more young girls to think about actually pursuing their racing ambitions with more ferocity, because they see the opportunities coming, and they see brands like Ferrari and Pirelli and obviously the governing body making these possibilities possible. And I think that's everything moving in the right direction with momentum. And like we discussed before, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's such a big positive step in the right direction.
Which is a good suggestion that you can give to a young girl, but it's probably valid also for a younger boy, to start in motorsport. What they should do to be successful in motorsport, and to realize if they have the qualities to progress in motorsport or not, because sometimes somebody doesn't have the quality. We cannot take as a grant that everybody is fast as the top drivers that we have in Formula One. Unfortunately, most of them are not fast enough. So, which is a good suggestion that you can give to them.
Well, you're right there, Mario, because sport is brutal. There's only ever one winner, and we all want to win. So there's a lot of disappointment also to cope with when you enter a sport. But in motorsport, I mean, you touched on the topic earlier. Unfortunately, in motorsport, you need a certain amount of money because you need to find a way to get yourself on track and go racing. But the very basic is karting. You know, go to your local kart track, go to a corporate kart center, see if you actually enjoy it, if you have a passion for it. And there's lots of communities around kart tracks which will help you into the sport. It is becoming much more accessible. The way the industry is developing with everything going electric, it means even if you're not somebody that's mechanically minded or from a mechanically minded family, it's becoming much easier just to rock up at a track with a kart and go for it. So I think the bottom line is, if you feel you have a passion for motorsport and you would love to try it, just find out online where your local kart track is, go there, speak to the people there, and either, you know, start on hiring a small kart and trying for your first time, or, you know, just moving up the ranks, because there's small communities around kart tracks who are always very welcome. And that's where, you know, the heart of motorsport begins, at karting at grassroots level.
Yeah, and from karting, you have been able to drive a Formula One car. So How was it?
I will never forget the first time I drove the F1 car. It was at Silverstone on the Grand Prix track. I
The
had
easiest circuit in the world.
It's pretty slow, it was an easy
Yes,
one to
yes.
start with.
Slow corners and never flat out.
Yeah, but I think what was great was the fact that I had done so much preparation work in the simulator, and I have to always be so thankful to Williams because they were so diligent in my preparation. I had done so many straight line tests, I had done so many simulator tests that I absolutely felt ready. And when I got out onto the track, and I remember going down the straight for the first time thinking, is my helmet going to get pulled off my head? Because the G-force was something I had never experienced in any other car. And I remember the first time coming around to Cops, knowing at that time that it was nearly flat, and just knowing I had to just, keep the foot down. But it was an incredible experience, and one that I'll always be so thankful that I was able to experience.
I cannot imagine. I never drove a Formula One, so I cannot imagine, but I'm sure it was really, really exciting. And at the end, you are still in motorsport. You are still passionate about motorsport. How is life now? How did you spend your quarantine period? How was it?
Well, my main priority now is in Formula E, which is a real challenge and one that I very much enjoy. But so we're not racing right now. But the biggest, let's say, advantage, and I realize for a lot of people, this lockdown and this quarantine and this whole pandemic has been tragic and very, very challenging. And for us also in a certain way. But one thing that I'm very thankful for is that I got my husband back for a long spell. He's normally someone that's always on the road. And like Mario, when the Formula One season kicks off, it's frantic and it's a lot of travel. So that quality time as a family, we've really, really enjoyed. But I have to say, now we're certainly feeling like it's time to go racing again. I'm very much looking forward to Spielberg. Obviously, I won't be there, but I love watching Formula One. So I will be glued to the television, and then Formula E should kick off in August. So slowly, I think everything starts to return to normality, and I'm certainly looking forward to that.
We have some questions from people, and Massimo is asking you, what are your future dreams?
That's a very good question. I think, when I was a young girl, I dreamed of driving a Formula One car, which I managed to drive when not actually make it into a race. But now as a wife and a mother, my dream is to be a world champion. I want to manage a team which can go on to be a world champion, whether that be in Formula E, if I can achieve it, or in some way I want to have a successful team.
Just replace your husband. It's easy.
I think it's going to be quite hard to replace him. He does a very good job, but at least I can learn from him. That's an advantage.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. We have another couple of nice questions. One is from Omkar, and how to get into the FIA at age of 24. Any chances to start career at this age?
I think to start a racing career at 24 will be quite difficult, because like in any sport, if you don't start young, it's difficult because you're up against young people that have been in the sport for a long time and have really honed their craft. But that doesn't mean you can't participate. It still means you can, wherever you're from, find out who your local governing body is, find out where your nearest track is, and go there. There will definitely be a community that can help you get into racing. And I would certainly recommend it. It's a fantastic sport, and it's something which can give you adrenaline, gives you competition. So simply go for it. Definitely not too late to start racing.
Yeah. Last one from Marilyn. How can I, a female race engineer from Germany, get involved and support the project?
That's a fantastic question. I think the best first step, and we would love her to come on board and be supportive, and there's lots of ways you can get involved on the Girls on Track initiative, which runs globally. The best thing to do is go onto the website, the FIA Girls on Track website. There will be definitely an opportunity there to email, and someone will pick that email up and we'll get you to one of our events. Maybe not this year with the challenge of going racing again with minimal people, but certainly please get in touch with us because we'd love to have your support.
Okay, that is a great message. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
for
Mario.
the nice chat. I hope to see you soon on track somewhere in the world.
Me too. I hope it won't be too far away.
No, thank you really for your nice suggestion to people. I'm sure they enjoy. And see you soon, Susie.
See you soon, Mario. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Ciao.